have the greatest job in the world, and that's working with dogs.
Best in Show winner is the French Bulldog.
Winston won the National Dog Show. It was amazing. It was exciting. And to have a dog to be #1 dog in this country, you have to have great nutrition. And I always fed Pro Plan. Just like us, when we eat well, we feel good. And I just love that food and what it's done all these years to all the dogs I've bred and all the dogs I've shown.
Welcome to Pure Dog Talk. I am your host, Laura Reeves. And like I said last week, I'm super excited. Last year, we really kind of fell down on the Love the Breeds episodes, and I'm bringing them back. So today, I am super, super excited to have Lindsay here to talk about Beagles. Lindsay Bryson, thank you so much for joining us. And Beagles are phenomenal. Like, there's different sizes and they're cute and there's so much great stuff to talk about. So welcome.
Thank you for having me. My name is Lindsay Bryson. I breed Beagles under the kennel name of Allegro Beagles with my husband, Bobby Ott. We are based in California. I got my first Beagle in 2002. I originally purchased him as an obedience dog, which anyone who has spent any time with Beagles knows that's starting off on the wrong foot. I'll just put it there.
Well,
that
was
a challenge.
We're hoping that this podcast is going to help other people know why that was not your best option.
No, and people would even say I would be working him outside the ring, and they said, "Are you crazy? Do you have any idea what you have?" I'm like, yeah, I decided to really just jump into the dog world with the biggest challenge I could find. Yeah. So he was not even supposed to be a show dog. I had no interest in doing conformation shows. I just wanted to do something with my dog. And this woman that I got my first Beagle from, she was in obedience. And I thought, well, that sounds like fun. I'll get an obedience. So I took him to the pet store one day, and the cashier there said, "Wow, you have a really beautiful Beagle. You should show him in conformation." And I thought, well, why not? We'll give that a try too.
Sure.
So that is how I fell down the rabbit hole, for lack of a better term, of conformation dog shows.
Pun intended.
Pun intended. Yeah, so that
Awesome.
was my original start. I finished him very easily. He was a top-ranked obedience Beagle. He was actually surprisingly
there were 3 other ones, so it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, but no, he was surprisingly really, really good at obedience.
Awesome.
His name was Oliver, and his average was like a 195. He really, I know, he really loved to work. So I thought, Beagles aren't that hard, and I got my second one. That was a totally different experience, because she looked at me and said, "You want me to do what? You want me to lay here and not move and not sniff and not do anything?" And that was the end of my obedience days.
So that's super. Okay, Lindsay. So this is super interesting to me, and we can get into more of this, but it just is a thing. Boy dogs in every breed I have ever been involved with, which is not a small number. Okay. Boy dogs are happy to do what you want them to do, and girl dogs, there is a reason for the term biche.
100%. 100%. The boy Beagles, oh my gosh, so happy to do things for you. Girls are like, I got my own agenda.
Here's a paw.
So I did.
Here's the paw.
Yeah, pretty much. So I kind of focused on conformation. I really found a love of showing dogs and breeding dogs and the science behind it and the genetics and how to kind of plan your breedings ahead of time. And so I sort of moved away from the performance work and kind of moved into the conformation work, where I met my husband, who did not have Beagles.
No.
He was into sport. No, he was into sporting dogs, and he had English Cockers at the time.
Yeah.
So he kind of inherited the Beagles through me, and now he absolutely loves them, and we have a great time with them. Yeah, how could you not? Sometimes they drive us a little insane, but no, for the most part, he absolutely loves them. We were professional handlers for about 12 years. We had some of the top-ranked Beagles at the time, and then he broke his hip.
Too, yeah.
Yeah, we showed a couple dachshunds. We still have one wire-haired dachshund. He's our little token non-beagle in the house. But yeah, so Bobby broke his hip, and we had children, and it just got to the point where being professional handlers was really just not working with our lifestyle. He jokes that I get one dog show out of him every 6 months, and he will only show one dog because the hip is such a problem for him now. But it's interesting, since this was back in 2017, we stopped handling professionally, and I really kind of started putting more focus into my breeding program. It's always kind of been on the back burner, because when you're campaigning dogs, you're out every weekend, you've got to travel, you're all over the place.
Well, and you retired from handling a lot younger than I did, so you get to do that.
Yeah. So it just, when you're doing that and you're living that lifestyle, because it's not really a job, it's a lifestyle, and it is a 24-hour a day job, you don't have the ability to focus on the breeding program and raising the puppies the same way that you can when you're not out every weekend. So it was kind of interesting when we made the decision to stop handling professionally and really just focus on our own breeding program. That's when my breeding program really took off, and has been quite successful since then. It was almost like I was just kind of dabbling with it before, and then when I put all my focus into it, it was like, oh, I do actually know what I'm doing here.
I think there's a life lesson here, Lindsay. Focus on things. Everybody wants to say, well, but 100% effort gives 100% return. That's the thing I think.
Absolutely.
That's the thing I think. So talk to us about Beagles. I just love them. Living with Beagles is different than living with other dogs, but they're also a really popular family companion. So let's talk to people who are interested in a big one or a little one. And I also want to talk about the history of Beagles, because they're been around a long time.
They have. They originally are from like 16th century, I believe. They were in England. They came over to America in like the early 1800s as hunting dogs. They did not come as two separate varieties at that time. Now, if you look in England, they have one size, and it's a preferred size. So it's anything from the preferred size is 13 to 17 inches, and you can really go higher or lower. Versus in America, where we have the two varieties, and that's not exceeding 13 inches, which is 13 inches at the shoulders and below, and that can be any size. So when you hear people talk about, oh, I want a teacup beagle and I want something really small, that's still a 13-inch beagle. There is no teacup beagle. It is 13 inch and under, or 13 to 15. And then, of course, so we've got the 13-inch and under, and then we have the 13 to 15 size, which is the 15-inch beagle. They decided to make that split sometime, I believe, around the end of the Civil War. It was kind of like the late 1800s, where they realized that when they were running their beagles in a pack, that the bigger beagle was outrunning the smaller beagle. And that's when they decided, this really kind of isn't fair. We got to give these little guys the ability to join in the hunt. And so they split it into 13s and 15s. You will also see the 15s kind of hit a different type of terrain. You will see that they are chasing like the bigger, faster hares versus the 13-inch, which is going to go after maybe a smaller, less active, or less cottontail bunny type. And they can also hit different they can get into different areas where a larger 15-inch cannot. And that is why we enjoy having the two varieties in America.
Cool.
So,
and they make them a lot. You say that in the UK and in Europe, the one size can go up to 17 inches. I mean, that's almost terrier size.
It is almost terrier size. When I went to Crufts in 2010, I was quite amazed at how big some of the beagles are over there. Because again, it's a preferred size in England, whereas in America, we have a DQ. They cannot be over 15 inches or they are disqualified.
Right. Interesting. And when you look at the development, and this is all, like, I love to learn these things. So when you look at the development, you've got all of the beagle to foxhound, right, like, continuum, from the 13-inch beagle going all the way up to the American foxhound in size. And do we know where and how and if any of these breeds are associated, related, common ancestors? What do we know about that?
Well, I'm sure The English Foxhound is the bigger version of
Right.
the Beagle.
Yep.
And the Beagle standard does say it's a miniature foxhound. We are based off the English Foxhound standard, not the American Foxhound.
Right.
So you don't, when you look at a Beagle, you don't want a miniature American Foxhound. You want a miniature English. And so we are essentially a dwarf of the English Foxhound. I'm sure there was plenty of intermixing back in the day.
Okay.
As far as the actual details regarding that, I'm not sure of. But I do know that we are focused more on the English Foxhound type versus the American.
Right. And for listeners who are not familiar, I know Lindsay will correct me if I get this wrong, but the English Foxhound is a stockier, blockier, chunkier dog, and the American
Correct.
Foxhound developed in the U.S. in the colonies by George Washington, if I remember correctly.
Yes,
it's got
correct.
almost a racing greyhound, a more arched loin, much leaner, much racier looking dog.
Correct. And with Beagles, we want them to be big for their inches. That is in the standard. And when you say big for their inches, that doesn't mean the biggest, beefiest, stockiest dog that you're going to find, but you want something that is a substantial dog that is going to last in the field from sunup to sundown for many, many days. You're not just putting them out in the field and saying, go find one bunny and you're good for the day. They go hunting for days on end. And so you need something that's going to have that substance and that ability to keep up. If you have something that's too big or too heavy, it's not going to last. If you have something that's too small and too racy, it's not going to last. You want that right there, moderate, middle of the road type dog.
Awesome. And I think, it's an important piece to remember. Built to run in a pack and chase bunnies and yell while they do it.
Yeah, yes.
Trupanion is revolutionizing medical insurance for pets by providing the best possible experience to our members. And it's not some space-age dream. It's happening now. We pay your veterinarian directly while you're checking out, and we're the only ones who can, which means you have decisions in seconds, and you don't have to wait for reimbursement. So unlike with other providers, you'll keep more money in your pocket. Ask your veterinarian if Trupanion can pay them directly, because there's pet insurance, and then there's Trupanion.
So help walk us through how that transitions into your living room companion.
Well, I teach my dogs a quiet command very, very early. You do actually technically want a loud Beagle, because if you're out in the field, you essentially send your pack out and you don't see them. You are focusing on hearing them. So if you have a quiet Beagle that doesn't open up and bay when they catch the scent, you're going to lose it. It's going to be gone. And many people know that Beagles, once they get going, they're not necessarily going to come back. So you need to have a loud Beagle. If you're going to be taking that into your home and living with it, obviously you don't want that. So one of the things that I teach my dogs very, very early is quiet, knock it off, keep your volume down.
Inside voice.
Because that is what's going to work in neighborhoods and when you have people living around you versus, out in a field or in acreage where they don't quite hear it.
Right.
So that's one of the things that I definitely start with. Living with Beagles, it's like having a permanent 2-year-old, for lack of a better term. They're forever toddlers. They're constantly looking for things. They're looking for stuff to get into. They're looking for ways to occupy their mind. It is so important to keep a busy Beagle, or sorry, I just got a text. Keep a Beagle's mind busy, because as soon as they get bored, that's when you start running into the problems that people talk about: digging, barking, destructive behaviors, separation anxiety. If you have a tired Beagle, it is a happy Beagle. So I always encourage people to go out and do things with their dogs. Take them hiking, take them running, do performance work with them, even if it's not obedience, which can be real hit or miss. But I've started running my dogs in Fast Cat.
Okay.
And they love it.
Yeah.
They think that is the greatest thing, because all they get to do is run for 100 yards and then they get cookies at the end. It's like the perfect Beagle job.
Well, and any of the things there are, if we're talking about things you can do with your Beagle, there are Beagle field trials.
There are.
There,
And the National Beagle Club just, in the last couple of years, we just added a hunt instinct
oh,
title,
fun.
sorry, where they don't necessarily have to hunt a bunny. It's great if they can, but what they're showing is just their instinct. Do they understand that they need to have their nose to the ground? Do they understand bringing the pack back together? We have a 500 acres outside of Washington, D.C. that's owned by the National Beagle Club, where they have hunt trials and stuff. Every 5 years, our national is back there. And so when we went back in 2022, we held this hunt instinct test, and I went out and walked with some of the packs, and it was so cool to watch these dogs go out into the field and do what they were, bred to do,
Yeah.
and hunt in the ways that they were supposed to hunt. We had a couple show dogs in there, not quite doing the same job, but it was just really cool to watch these dogs that didn't necessarily know what they were supposed to do, but have their instinct kick in. I was talking to one of the judges, and he was pointing out one dog that I had followed for about 5 minutes, watching her sniff the ground, and you could tell that she was on a scent of something and just didn't quite know how to execute correctly.
Right.
And he said she's got the assignment, she just doesn't quite know how to do it yet. So that was really cool to watch. You can do stuff like that with your beagles. Rally, they love rally. It's a little less rigid than the obedience, where I think beagles kind of get bored with the rigidness of obedience and the repetition.
Barn hunt.
Barn hunt. Oh my God, they're great with barn hunt.
Scent
Even
work.
dock diving. Scent work. I should have started with that one. That's exactly what they're doing. They do. So there's just so much stuff that you can do to keep that beagle's mind busy, that there's no reason for them ever to be falling down the trails of the bad side of the breed, which, like I said, is the barking, the destructiveness.
Right.
Because they do get bored.
And talk to us about, and I know I've talked to you about this, other beagle people, living with beagles and fences and leashes, and that sometimes the ears get turned off while they're doing other things, and that's dangerous.
I tell all of my puppy buyers, as soon as the nose turns on, the ears turn off. So you need a very good recall. You need an emergency word. Cookie is mine, because a beagle's, the weight of their heart is through their stomach. They are very much garbage disposal. So I start again very early with a cookie. And that is my emergency word, that if they're getting off on somewhere where they're not supposed to go, I just tell them cookie. And it's really funny. A couple times I've had to use that. You can see the moment of, do I keep going where I'm going, or do I go back and get that cookie? And you can almost see the wheels turning in that debate of like, oh, which is going to win out, the nose or the stomach? And most of the time the stomach wins out. But yeah, fences, absolutely. You have to have a fence. I don't even like the underground fences, because a beagle, they're so stubborn and so hard-headed, they will bolt right through that. And then now you have a situation where the dog can't
get back.
because the whatever drove them to go over that fence it's not on the other side. So that desire to go through the electric fence is gone at that point. So it's very important.
Entirely for that exact reason in many breeds, including mine. It's just pointless.
It is. And some breeds are just they just don't care. They are willing to go through that moment of pain to get the reward. And beagles are 100% that type. The trash, they don't care what trouble they're going to get into. They want that trash, and the punishment is worth the trash. So Bobby and I joke that our beagles have a safe room where they have their crates and their couch, and that's about it, because you kind of have to almost be preemptively planning, what is this dog going to get into? What are they going to find that I wasn't expecting? And still, even me, 20-something years into the breed, yesterday I got holes in my show jacket because I left it on the floor and the beagle went over the fence. And then everybody was like, this looks great. We have a little baby gate that blocks off the laundry room. And then all of a sudden I had 6 dogs in the laundry room chewing up my jacket. I know better. And I still had this happen.
You're a trained professional, dude.
I know. And I still have these accidents happen all the time. So it's definitely a breed that crate training is so important. You have to be able to put them somewhere where they can be safe, because beagles do make poor choices a lot. But on the flip side, they are some of the funniest dogs to live with. They are constantly making us laugh. I have one that she is so passive aggressive with the way that she asserts herself over the other beagles that somebody will be chewing on a toy and she'll just come over and just very slyly roll on top of the toy and just lay there waiting for the dog to give up so that she can take it. It is the funniest thing, and I videotape it every time, and I'll put together these little pieces of all the times that Aria has gone through and stolen toys from somebody by just flopping herself on top of it while like mid chewing. They love everyone. They're great with kids. They are great with other dogs. They are great with everything. Maybe not so much smaller pets. Cats they can be hit or miss with, but typically the cat kind of takes care of the puppy early on and they learn that mutual respect. But I've even had rabbits living with my beagles, and I've taught them, these are not yours. You leave this alone and everything will be fine. So they're pretty happy to oblige to that.
Well, and I think that's an enormous part of their appeal, frankly, is that they are just great little hounds. They get along with everybody.
They're small. They're easy to travel with.
Yeah.
They fit into smaller homes, smaller yards versus like a foxhound where you're going to need a lot more room for.
Right. And talk to us. I mean, it's a short coat, but it's not like they don't shed. So talk to us about upkeep. Are they tidy with their shedding? Are they piggy with their? I mean, how are they that way?
We have beagle glitter all over our house and ourselves. My brother, who is not, he likes dogs. We grew up with dogs, but he does not have a dog. He came over for Christmas and took one, sat on the couch and was just covered in dog hair. It's part of our life. They do shed. They excessively shed, obviously 2 times a year. They really drop their coat. Yeah, furminators are great for stuff like that. And I just take my dogs out in the yard and I'll just kind of rake through it to try and get that undercoat out to keep the shedding to a minimal. But you have to be willing to have dog hair in your house if you're going to have a beagle.
365 sort of shedding project.
It is. I am constantly cleaning up dog hair. It's a part of our life. I don't mind it, but for some people, if you're looking for something non-shedding, beagle probably is not the way to go.
And talk to us about, kind of health and longevity. I have a sense in my head that this is pretty hardy, healthy little dog. Am I right, or where are we?
Yeah, no, for the most part, they're very, very healthy. We obviously have some of the typical cancers, obviously making a huge problem in the breed, and as it is for many, many breeds. But for the most part, epilepsy is our biggest issue. Cancer, some autoimmune disorders, but for the most part, outside of those kind of 3 major things, they're a very, very healthy breed. I've had some live up to 16, 17 years old, and not have a bad day in their life. It was their time. They're just very, very hardy, very healthy, easy care as far as veterinary needs. Just a really good dog for the average family, as long as they kind of know those little quirks.
Right. And we don't see this, or we don't talk about this all the time on the podcast in these Love the Breeds episodes, but we don't always have a breed like this. You were talking about the field work that you saw at the National and the dogs that are part of the pack, and then the show dogs. So do you see a really major split in your hunting packs and your show dogs in terms of what they look like and what they act like?
Very much so. I kind of tell people, if you're looking for just a family companion, seek out a show dog, just because through the generations, that instinct, and one of the reasons why we're bringing the hunting instinct test back is through the years, that instinct and that need to run and chase, it's kind of been watered down through the show dogs because the show people focus on different things. And then the hunting people, they don't care what their beagle looks like as long as it can run a rabbit. So they kind of move towards focusing on the hunting aspect, not so much the looks aspect. And we've ended up kind of with an interesting split. The other interesting thing about beagles and our club, which you don't really see is that we have a very obvious split within our membership. So you have your regular membership, which are the hunt people and the pack owners. And then we have the confirmation people. We are supporting members of the National Beagle Club. And I don't know that there's any other club that has
Interesting.
such a split to their national.
That's super interesting that the prime moving group of the national club is the field people.
Yeah. They kind of host the national club, and then we're side members of it in a way. And so we kind of do our own things through the confirmation side, and we have done a lot of branching, certainly in recent years, to bring the two together.
Yeah.
There are a lot of breeders that are really working hard to make a dual purpose champion. I think the last dual champion in AKC history might have been in the 50s.
Yeah.
I'd have to look that up. It's been a long
Like
time.
labs and a lot of the retrieving
Yeah.
breeds kind of in the same way.
You just don't see the dual champions like you do with like Brittany's. I feel like you see a lot of that in Brittany's.
Short hairs, Vizslas,
Yeah,
wire
you get
hairs.
a lot.
You know, we have pretty high numbers of duels, but those, you know, the retrieving breeds, you really don't see it. Where you see the most, this is one of my pet little projects, where you see the most duels actually is in the sighthounds.
I was going to say
champion.
Whippets was one that kind of came to mind. I see a lot of
Borzoi.
dual champion Whippets. Yeah.
Borzoi are pretty high up in that. The Senjis, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's something you just don't see in Beagles. And so there are at least 4 or 5 confirmation breeders that are starting to kind of
love that
work their way into, they're running their show dogs.
Right.
They're kind of mixing them in with the field dogs to bring that instinct back. And it's been really cool to watch how they're doing their breeding programs.
That's a really interesting conversation from a breeding perspective. And we see it in my breed and in other sporting breeds that I work with. When you start doing, you've got purebred dogs of different styles, right? A hunting dog and a show dog. You almost have genetic islands, so that then when you're talking about getting genetic diversity, you're doing a lot of things at the same time when you bring in some of those different styles and work that into your breeding program.
Yeah, it's fun to watch. And so I've got a couple different hunting focused breeders that I kind of quietly follow their breeding programs to see what they're doing and see how that's working. It's stuff that sort of stuff really interests me. Yeah. I find it very fascinating.
Very cool. Okay, well, I sure appreciate your time, Lindsay. I love it. I love your hound pack picture on the wall behind you. It just makes my heart happy. And I am grateful for you bringing us Beagle knowledge. I appreciate it.
Happy to talk to you.
Excellent. All right. You have a great day.
Thank you. You too.